What's a pansexual? I know what that is. It's somebody who's sexually aroused by pots and pans, isn't it?
I have no idea, Kevin. I'm so out of date and so old-fashioned, honestly.
Well, it's your party.
I know. Well, look, thank you so much. Please tune in to the great Kevin O'Sullivan, who I absolutely adore, one of my best friends in this place, and has a fantastic show. Thank you so much for listening to me, Jonathan Gullis, on Drive, here at the home of Common Sense Richards Talk. Get your calls in now for Kevin's show, 0344 499 1000. Text in with the word talk to the start of your message to 87222, and message us on X at talkTV. It's been great seeing you, and I wish you all a happy weekend.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
It's the weekend. Well, not quite. Got to do this show first. But good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk all the way to 10 o'clock. Join me, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan, for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved and talk on Talk by phoning me on 0344 499 1000. You can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number if you like, and I promise to play your message out. It's Friday, the weekend starts now. Here's what's coming up. Fury as Keir's Craven crew announce a toothless, tiny rape gang inquiry, not national but local, and only in 5 towns. The scourge of 2 decades of Muslim men of Pakistani origin sexually abusing and torturing vulnerable young white girls, many of whom were underage, hit at least 40 towns, possibly 50 or more, nearly all of which had Labour councils and Labour MPs. While this horror was going on, enabled by cops, social workers, teachers and politicians all turning a blind eye, the Director of Public Prosecutions from 2008 until 2013 didn't seem to do a damn thing. Not a single prosecution in those 5 years of terror. And who was that DPP? Step forward, Mr. Keir Starmer, who surely has some serious questions to answer. Gee, I wonder why the Labour government doesn't want a full inquiry. Any ideas? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, find out why the Tories have lost it. Getting an elderly lady to complete a diversity course to atone for liking tweets about deporting migrants. Woke madness. No wonder the Conservatives are sinking without trace. Nevertheless, the current leader, Kemi Badenoch, is desperately trying to be hardline right, declaring today that migrants who refuse to embrace British culture should find somewhere else to live. Agreed, Kemi. But is this too little too late? 0344 499 1000. In other news, a new report has found that if you have a working class accent, you're more likely to be suspected of criminal activity. Go, blimey. Do you reckon that's true? If so, is this the British class system in all its lack of glory? When are we going to ditch the class system? 0344 499 1000. Plus, the latest in the real-life Hollywood drama that's far more entertaining than any movie. In the new twist in the volcanic row between actress Blake Lively and her co-star Justin Baldoni, he has launched legal action suing her and her husband Ryan Reynolds for a staggering $400 million. Blake and Baldoni didn't get on well on the set of their film It Ends With Us. Well, where will this explosive feud end? It's the talk of Tinseltown. Stand by for all the gory details. And finally, the BBC's favourite drill rapper killer, Jake Farry, is back behind bars after breaking the terms of his release from jail after serving 15 years of a life sentence for murdering 16-year-old gentle giant Jimmy Misen. He wrote, this is Jake, he wrote a song called Dirty Game, boasting about his disgusting crime, which was specifically against his licence. And then he filmed a video for his dismal ditty in the London borough of Greenwich, from which, as part of his licence, he was banned. So, we're not talking master criminal here, are we? Hey, Jake, not only are you scum, but you're also thick as a brick. Not a great combo. Enjoy the rest of your days in jail. At least I hope it's the rest of your days. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. And as per my Friday friend for the next couple of hours is political strategist Pete Barnes. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Kev. How's it going?
Very, very well. Sorry to have a go at your party a bit there.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to have extra defending this week.
But you're going to have a hard time.
No, I won't. No, I won't.
You will.
Oh,
you will.
Reactionaries. No principles, no ideology.
Well,
just,
that's me.
Just jumping from thing to thing.
Principles? What are they?
I know, yeah. Correct.
I do have ethics, though. I think it's a county to the east of London, isn't it? Right, let's get going. Let's get going. Let's talk first. I mean, we can agree on this.
Yeah.
This is a disgrace. So, you know, thanks to Elon Musk, last couple of weeks, everybody in the country has been reminded of this horror of the rape gang scandal. We called it the grooming gang scandal, in itself a euphemism we should never have used. It's rape gangs. Now, for the best part of 2 decades, maybe longer, rape gangs made up of Pakistani men, men of Pakistani origin, all Muslims, preyed on vulnerable white girls, many of them underage. So there was paedophile rape as well as rape. These girls were tortured, raped, sexually abused, treated like animals. This went on for 2 decades at least. It happened in they reckon at least 40, maybe 50, maybe as many as 60 towns and cities across the land, length and breadth of the land. Now, rejecting the nation's call, vast majority of people want a full national public inquiry on this. Labour, the Labour government today has rejected that. What we're going to get, Pete, is a tiny little inquiry in 5 towns. Now, as many as 60 towns might have been affected by this. Definitely 40, probably 50. 5 towns. 5 towns. So, we're not going to get any kind of inquiry at all. Those poor girls, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. They think maybe as many as 250,000 are not going to get justice. So why doesn't the Labour government want a full national inquiry, an inquiry that this nation demands? Could it be because in most of these towns the local MP was Labour and the council was Labour? Could it be that in the middle of this horror, from 2008 till 2013, the Director of Public Prosecutions was one Mr. Keir Starmer. And while he was DPP, how many prosecutions of these vile sex fiends were there? Oh, I'll tell you, none. 0. They've got skin in this game, the Labour government, haven't they? They're looking after their own backs.
They are. This is just cheap. It's nasty. It's just disgraceful. The Labour Party have let down these victims. If any Labour MP or supporter comes out and says that their party cares about women and girls, they are fundamentally lying after this absolute travesty. 5 local ones out of nearly 50. But even, like you said, it could be even more. This is just another one of their audits that they got. We've got 67 on the go, so they can say that they've done something and brush it under the carpet. That is what they're hoping. But I think they've got this entirely wrong. You know, they want to have it victim central and all this kind of stuff. They are ignoring the huge elephant in the room for the Labour Party, and that is the ethnicity and the culture of this entire thing. And it is, the fact it is a national problem, and they are just refusing to believe that we do not have anywhere near the information and the kind of failure of our systems that has led to this. And we just don't. And again, the J report came nowhere near to covering the entirety of it, and it is embarrassment to even argue it. Keir Starmer should, on this basis, resign, because every Labour MP should come out and decry this, because if they say that they stand for things, this must be the first thing they stand for. And it is, like you said, it's in their backyard, it's all their people, and someone's got to tell me why, for example, a town like Oldham was denied one before by Labour officials, but has now got one. What's the material difference between then and now? Oh yeah, Keir Starmer's Prime Minister. This is the reality, and they've now got to manage it so much better. They can't just sweep it under the carpet.
Yeah, let me know what you think about this. This is Labour looking after its, watching its own back, because the Prime Minister will not emerge from, or would not emerge from, a proper inquiry at all. Well, he did nothing. Nothing. And the whole story of these poor girls, this awful, awful stain on this country's history, it went on from the 90s until at least 2016, and they think it's still going on. It really is, and I believe that. A lot of coppers have told me it's still happening. Like, we've got phone calls from people saying it's still happening. Now, the point is, though, in the middle of this horror, this ongoing horror, the scale of which was epic, massive scale of this going on, the Director of Public Prosecutions was Keir Starmer. He had the temerity last week to boast in Parliament, I put in place prosecutions of these grooming gang members. His parting shot in 2013, after 5 years of doing nothing, was to suggest that maybe prosecutions might be in order. He didn't do anything. Now, the real story here, Pete, as you well know, and I think most of our audience do too, is that the reason that these Pakistani grooming gangs, these rape gangs, were able to get away with their disgusting, vile activities, their nefarious goings-on, was this. Because the police knew about it, teachers knew about it, local politicians knew about it, social workers knew about it, but they all turned a blind eye because they were terrified that if they went after these animals who were raping white girls, young white girls. They might be accused of racism and Islamophobia. That's the story.
Yeah, 100%. And I remind people that at the same time, this lot were running around saying the Tories were creating a hostile environment for, all these people. Well, I hate to break it to you, the Labour Party created a bigger hostile environment. They terrified these people of coming forward, and some of them I completely blame. I'd also like to point out, whilst it's Keir Starmer, where was Sadiq Khan in all of this as Mayor of London, and Andy Burnham and his role in all of this? These are very powerful people. If you're telling me that they didn't hear rumours, they didn't hear anything, you could pull the other leg. Like Sadiq Khan today, either today or yesterday, apologies, he refused 9 times to answer the question about grooming, these rape gangs here in London. 9 times he refused. And he did that. It's typical, I don't get the question, I don't understand this. He is obfuscating. It is absolutely disgraceful what we are seeing from the Labour Party right now, and it is coming from the very, very top. Yeah. And they are scrambling to kind of cover this up to say they've done enough, and you'll see all the useful idiots will come out and say, Keir Starmer did this, and it is nonsense. Keir Starmer turned his back because this was politically advantageous for him, and that is the reality. He's done it time after time after time. He is what we call a political submarine. He disappears when things get difficult.
Well, no, he's a political aeroplane. He gets on a plane and goes to Ukraine.
Well, that's true, actually. These times,
always going abroad. Let me know what you think about this. This is a disgrace. They are covering up. They're doing it again. And don't forget, in all the explosive row that has been going on for a couple of weeks, by the way, Chris Bryant, the veteran Labour MP, he did concede that it's that the furor, the fact that we're even in a minor way confronting this terrible scandal that, as I say, is a stain on this nation, is down to Elon Musk. Because Elon
100%.
Musk started tweeting about it, calling Jess Phillips, an enabler of rape and genocide. Bit over the top, but Jess Phillips doesn't want a big inquiry. She's the Home Office Minister because such an inquiry would alienate the Muslim community. She loses the Muslim vote in her constituency. She loses her constituency. So she's looking after herself, and also on a wider scale, Pete, Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, they need the Muslim vote at the next election. Yeah. Such an inquiry would alienate the Muslim community. Labour might lose the Muslim vote, and there you have it, the cynical, disgusting mathematics of politics.
Yeah, and I tell you what would probably be ramped up the agenda, the Islamophobia hate crime legislation to kind of counteract this as a kind of pandering. On the issue of Jess Phillips, the reason she also doesn't want it, because she's shown to be nothing but a hypocrite. The woman who has dedicated her life, as we're told time after time, to the protection of girls and children and young women, lie. This proves that to be nothing but hypocritical. She should be out there blasting the government, her own body. She should resign from the government over this. How could she say that she's, she wants the protection of all these invulnerable people, and when she's given the power, she's given the responsibility and the platform, she turns their back on them. Yeah. That is what she did. That is what the Labour Party did. And I tell you right now, this may sink the Labour Party if they're not careful. Well, and I
think you're right. I think this is a political manoeuvre too far. There are moments when you can't play politics, and this is one. We are talking about thousands of little girls. Yeah. Thousands of little girls have had their lives ruined by these monsters, and the Labour Party doesn't want an inquiry into it. Come on.
Yeah, they'd rather call you a far-right.
You're going to like this, Pete. Our dear left-wing state broadcaster, the BBC, you might want to tune into it, folks. I wouldn't advise it. In about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, it is a special programme. It's heralding Bradford's UK City of Culture status in 2025. It's hosted by Kirsty Housley and Stephen Frayne, whoever they are. It's going to celebrate the multiculturalism of not only of Bradford, but also of this country. They're celebrating the multiculturalism of Bradford. Now, in Bradford, a Conservative MP said this week that the scale of child sexual abuse by the grooming gangs, by the rape gangs, across the Bradford area is feared to dwarf that of Rotherham, which was massive. Wow. In Rotherham, there were at least 1,400 victims alone. So in Bradford, where the BBC in, 12 minutes' time will be celebrating the wonder of multiculturalism, in Bradford, the level of rape gang activity there is likely, they think, to dwarf that of Rotherham. So here we have it, the bien-pensant, liberal, metropolitan elite still lying to themselves, lying to us about the wonder of multiculturalism. When are we going to tell the truth about this?
The reason if they won't, this is the thing, because they don't do it, because they'd have to admit that they also helped put this entire structure in place. These people need this issue to go away, and they need to be reinforced that their politics are the right politics, because they imported this into our country. They allowed it to go completely unchecked, and they demonise anybody that dared raise an issue of concern. They need this to go away so they can still think they're the good people. They are not the good people here. No. I have no problem with celebrating lots of different people, but however, there is a problem when with one of these groups or multiple of these groups start to infect our way of life and start to infect and harm and damage the people of this country. And our government turned its back on them because they needed the votes, and that is the reality. It is disgusting.
Let me ask the audience, give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Do you think multiculturalism is working in this country? Do you think it's a triumph? The BBC does. As I say, now what are we on? A 10 minutes time. Don't you dare watch Bradford's Big Bash at 7:30, because it's basically going to tell you a lie. It's going to say, look at this multicultural wonder. It's fantastic. This show is called Bradford's Big Bash. It goes behind the scenes to reveal a spectacular opening event heralding Bradford's stint as the UK City of Culture in 2025. It also looks like for many years it has been the UK City of Rape by Pakistani grooming gangs. Come on, it just drives me nuts. Let me know what you all think about that, because I, for one, and I think Pete as well, we're absolutely disgusted.
It's been given it's been given at least £5 million just from the National Lottery alone. It's been received taxpayer money for this. And I want to, I probably will watch it just to do a count of how many times I hear the phrase rich cultural history, or it's got a rich history in this. Do you know, this is, they hark back. I want to know what it's like now. That's the reality.
And in case you think, we're just sort of flamming this up, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said, I think last week, that appalling crimes, I'm quoting her here, had taken place against, and this is Yvette Cooper speaking, had taken place against children in Bradford, Keighley, and across the country. In Bradford, City of Culture. City of rape, more like. City of rape gangs. And the BBC will be celebrating this wonderful town. Nothing against the good people of Bradford, of course, but something very wrong has gone down there. Let me know what your feelings are about Labour abandoning or just rejecting what we all want. I would take, other than a public inquiry. Trouble with public inquiries, they can take too long.
True.
Why not put a time limit on 1 year, something like that? If you're not going to do that, go and find all the coppers, all the teachers, all the social workers, all the local politicians, all the local people in authority who turned their backs and went la 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 because they didn't want to be accused of being racist. Find them all and put them in a dock and send them to jail. How about that?
But the one thing that's really important about this, a national inquiry, is that they can be judge-led, so you can compel testimony. You can get these people in the evidence room, basically, and actually question them. But unfortunately, the way they've got this set up, it's more of just a kind of quick questionnaire done by the Home Office, which is doing some kind of cheap review for 10 million quid, which is half the amount of money that we need on this.
But 50 towns. It's only going to be a local review in 5 towns. To what extent do you think the government's letting us down here? To what extent do you think Keir Starmer's basically watching his own backside, and indeed the Labour Party watching their own backside? 0344 499 1000. We've had a go at the Labour Party. Next up, we'll have a go at the Tories. We're going to have a go at everyone tonight. Stick around.
I certainly put in complaints about the Chris Carver case. If you recall,
Absolutely.
that gentleman was shot, and then completely incorrectly, Sadiq Khan immediately took the side of the gentleman that had been shot, not stayed completely neutral, which he should have done because he's the police and crime commissioner. And then, of course, that poor police officer had his name out there for everybody. And then when it came to it being looked into, then he was let off completely.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Do you know what a pansexual is?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just said to Jonathan Gullis that I thought I knew. I thought it was a person who was sexually attracted to pots and pans.
Yeah, you should keep them away from Russell Hobbs. It's a dangerous opposite. That's one of my favourite jokes. I know you shouldn't make it, but it's one of my favourites.
But seriously, I know you're going to defend the Tories, but I'm not going to.
I'm not. Actually, I know the story you're going.
I'm not going to let you defend them on this. This is the story of Dame Andrea Jenkins, of course, a former Tory MP who's defected to the Reform UK party, but she's revealed today, or it has emerged today, that her old mum, who was nearly 80 at the time, has subsequently sadly died. She was a lifelong member of the Tory party, and she was liking tweets. A couple of tweets about deporting migrants. As a result of this, the Conservative Party kicked her out. Andrea, being an MP, she was on Russell Quirk's show earlier today. Andrea, by the way, talk among yourselves. I'm just talking to my production department. Can we get Andrea talking to Russell Quirk earlier? Everybody, are you listening? Yeah, yes. Let's get Andrea talking to Russell Quirk about her mum. Anyway, she said that her mother, Valerie, she just liked a couple of tweets. She was kicked out of the party. Andrea took up the case. She said, come on, she's an old lady, and in any case, what's so wrong about that? And in the end, after a long battle, this is 2 years ago, they said, OK, she might be able to come back into the party if she completes a diversity awareness course, which was basically 10 modules where she had to answer questions like, what is a pansexual? This is the Tory party. Yeah. This is the Tory party. These ludicrous fools, while they were busy deceiving the public over mass immigration that they were secretly encouraging, they were also aping the woke morons of the left, something they never should have done. And apparently, Pete, it's still going on.
Oh, yeah, I could confirm that myself. I know for a fact it's still going on. And this has been the biggest problem with the Conservative Party.
Well, stop it.
It's Conservative campaign headquarters. I have said for a long time, the Tories it isn't necessarily the politicians, it's the people in the back room. It's the people running the campaigns. It's the people running the party, the institution itself, that have brought down the Conservative Party. You know, it's been infected, and I always use that word, by this kind of woke problem, because they've operated under the idea that if you keep pandering to people that don't like you, they might just vote for you. It is nonsense and stupidity, and every Tory has been saying this for a long time, that the problem is CCHQ, and yet they're all about to get peerages and knighthoods and all the rest of it because, it's jobs for the boys, and it is ridiculous, because I do agree that they have contributed to this culture of pandering and cancellation. It infuriates me because
proper conservatives,
they are not the base of the Conservative
proper
Party.
Conservatives should say you can stick diversity where the sun don't shine.
See, that is where I disagree with you.
Yeah,
because I do think there is actual place for diversity.
But hang on, no, I'm the host.
The minorities face trouble.
I'm the host, and you can stick diversity where the sun don't shine. Proper Conservatives should have no time for the DEI industry.
In the way that
this crap will kill the Conservatives stone dead unless they drop it like like a stone.
I think the opposite is true, and I think this is the problem of going down, dropping it. It means that you've opened yourself up to open attacks.
Oh,
where
rubbish.
Actually, no, 100%.
Oh, what, you think they should have these...
yeah, because there is
they
a
should
general...
have diversity
not in the
tests.
way that it is. Not in the way that...
The Tory party
no,
should have
no,
diversity
that's not what
tests.
I said. They should have diversity
Are you
training courses
serious?
for MPs and how to approach certain cultures.
All right,
because
folks.
that is the way that
All
it
right,
works.
folks. Pete thinks the Tory party should have diversity
No, I
tests.
don't. That's not what I said.
Do you think that
That's
the
not
Tory
what I
party...
said.
Should the Tory party have diversity tests? This goes back to Cameron. Cameron and the gang, and then Theresa May. They thought, oh, everybody hates the Tories, so therefore let's pretend we're the Labour Party. Let's be Labour light.
The fact he called himself the heir to Blair should have been the big red flag for most people. You know, on some stuff, I actually thought he was quite good on this. And on others, when it came to delivering, like I said, the problem has always been the hiring of the same people who have the same views in the Labour Party and in the Tory party. I don't get me wrong, I'm not defending the party.
Why has the Tory party got diversity tests?
Because unfortunately, it is part of British culture.
Sod it!
Because,
get rid of it!
Unfortunately, I'd love to be able to,
Oh,
but
come on,
it's a money-making industry.
If the Tories keep diversity tests, they're in bigger trouble than they already
Absolutely.
are.
I know.
They're
I
finished
think,
if they're going to do this.
No, if you go around just saying
Rubbish.
you don't care about other people's cultures, you don't care about how people respecting people, that you are going to open yourself to a whole lot of trouble, and I friend that trouble as Nigel Farage. The fact that most people consider him to be one of the biggest problems of that
If you don't
party.
like diversity tests, it doesn't mean to say you've got no time for other
No,
people's
that's
culture.
the point I'm arguing. That is the point. You can't just throw baby out with the bathwater. You have to have a nuanced position, something that reactionaries don't have because you don't think things through. This is the thing. You see it and you think, oh, well, it's got to go. It's got to go. Well, you don't think, well, do you know what? Maybe we could get a new cultural vote like the Tories did with the Indian vote and the Sikh vote.
It again. You're being David Cameron.
Yes, and it's called political strategy, and it's called how to get your votes in.
Yeah, honestly, mate, if that's what you think, you lot are really sunk.
No, I think
you're over.
No, you're running around going, we're top of the
You
ball.
still want to ape the Labour Party. You still want to ape woke warriors.
Well, do you want to know why? It's because the society and the culture is like that.
The Tory party should not be seeking out old ladies and asking them if they know what pansexual is.
I am not defending that level of this stuff at all. But what I'm saying is, baby out with bathwater, throwing it all away is stupidity. Yeah. Because you need to be able to talk to people to get them to vote for you.
Rubbish. Here's a vote winner. Kemi Badenoch tomorrow says that should announce there will be no more diversity tests for Conservative Party members. That would be a vote winner. Simple as that.
You're doing the same.
Anyway, we've got to move on. We've got to move on. We'll talk about Kemi Badenoch and her uselessness next. Stay where you are, folks.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Breaking, very sad news. Soccer legend Dennis Law, of course, the Manchester United and Manchester City striker, has died at the age of 84. He'd fought a long battle against Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. He was diagnosed with that in 2021. He was a fantastic goal scorer, a fantastic player, Scottish, of course, played 55 times for his country. The only Scottish footballer ever to have won the Ballon d'Or, the prestigious award for the best player in the world. He scored 237 goals in 404 appearances for Manchester United, and then switched across the city to play for Manchester City. So a very sad day, but a genuine soccer legend. R.I.P. Dennis. I remember you playing. You were a genius. R.I.P. Dennis Law. Let's get back to our schedule here. And now, Kemi Badenoch today, who I think is, trying to sort of look as if she's hurtling right. So in a rare appearance above the parapet, little-known Tory leader Kemi today said that migrants who refuse to embrace British culture should go and live elsewhere. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. But how many of the million or so legal migrants that the Tories were quietly letting in every year were quizzed about this? How many of the tens of thousands of illegal migrants granted asylum by the Tories were vetted over their allegiance to British culture? I mean, to be honest with you, every time she tries anything on migrants, you just go, yeah, you lot lied to us and you deceived us basically for 14 years, but certainly for the past few years. It just sounds like headline hunting. And I saw social media today and everybody's response was like mine. So this is very dodgy area for the Tories, because everybody goes, you just lied to us. Yeah,
it is difficult, I have to admit. But the thing is, you say it's it's a bad issue, but yet they're still performing well at actual elections. And we look at what's going on.
Well, let's wait for May, shall we?
We'll wait for May, but I still think
if there are any elections in May,
again, we'll have to wait to find out, which is a ridiculous situation. But this is my thing with Kemi, is that she's not going after the reform vote. She's not going, because for me, she knows that the Tory, that vote has gone.
That is very reformish, though, isn't it?
It is, but it's also very conservative. So she's going back to conservative values. She's taking the party back where it needs to be. The difference between that and reform is that has a plan. You want to talk about headline hunting? That is reform. All they do is say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and there is no substance behind it. The difference between Kemi and for Nigel Farage is Kemi says something, she has a plan for it. Nigel says something and makes up the plan on the spot.
What's her plan here, then?
Well, what it will be is
she just says everybody who doesn't embrace British culture shouldn't live it.
Well,
That's not a plan. That's not a plan. That's a headline.
What it is about reshifting this country to be asylum skeptic.
Yeah, what's the plan there, though?
Well, again,
there isn't a plan.
Yes, there is. It's about reforming those. It's not. It's about reforming those who do.
You lot have finished.
Absolutely not. Because reform have no plan on this.
You need a new leader, though, don't you?
Oh, I don't think so.
You need a better leader.
No, we don't.
She's not very good, is she?
I think she's doing fine. Let's look at the number of polls that she's talking. Let's look at where the Tories were. Let's look at where the Tories are now. Let's look at, there's lots of things the Tories are doing better on. We were winning, we're winning in seats. We're right in the red wall again. We're winning up and down the country. So this idea that Tory party's finished, I'm sorry,
You're
is
winning
absolutely...
seats?
Yeah, in terms of the council elections. And out of 150 so far, the Tories have won the most. Reform, 7. So congratulations. That's really good going on that front. Labour Party losing loads. The Lib Dems, I think, just on the thing.
Why do you want to stick with the Tories when they lied to us for so many years?
Because I think, do you know what?
Immigration.
Because unfortunately, I don't think any of it. Why do you want to stick
with the Tories when David Cameron wasn't a proper Tory?
And this proper Tory argument is nonsense.
Theresa May was Lib Dem at best. Boris Johnson was a Green idiot. He was probably the Green Party Prime Minister. What do you want to stick with these frauds?
What, do you want to talk about frauds? Let's talk about reform and Nigel Farage. Do you think any of them are real?
We're not talking about reform. We're talking about you or not.
I sit with them because conservatism is a more than a philosophy. It is a way of looking at society. And the Conservative Party still has that streak.
You try selling that to people.
No, it's got to be difficult.
Hey,
and I'm
vote
not
for
taking it
us.
away.
We've got a way of looking at society.
Yeah.
That won't work.
What do you think? What do you think conservatism actually is? It's not capitalism.
Finished.
It's not
That's what I
capitalism.
think it actually is.
Conservatism
I think
is
it's
finished. Oh, please! How many times have we heard that since 2010?
You are trapped in the orthodoxy of the two-party system.
No, trapped. Do you know who is trapped in the orthodoxy of the two system?
Yeah.
The general public, and that is where parties go to win. This is the difference between most of the parties and the Tories. We can adapt. We can go to where the public is.
Win the next election?
I think we will. I think we will. If you think that, yeah. I think we'll at least be the largest party. Whether we'll win outright a majority, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But I tell you right now, it is about the silent vote. It is not about people who run around saying, we're going to prosecute this person. Don't do it.
Pete.
Oh, yeah. Good luck turning around the boats, breaking international laws.
Why not turn around the boats?
Because you can't do it. Are you going to break the national maritime thing?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Because unfortunately,
why not?
You need that to protect our British waters.
You're such a lefty.
I'm
such a lefty.
No, it's called being the grown-up in the room rather than just being a bull in a china shop, having no idea what you're doing, having zero experience running the country.
Socialist. That's what you
here
are.
we go.
You can't turn the boats around. That would be against human rights. You no doubt want to stay in the...
First of all,
do you want to stay in the ECHR?
No, I don't, actually, because it's not about human rights.
Kemi does.
Well, actually, no, she doesn't. She wants to review it to make sure that we are doing well.
Review? That sounds very Labour.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's called sensible governing.
Why not just leave the ECHR?
Because, unfortunately, the ECHR also is used to protect women who are gender critical. Do you want to get rid of that? No, of course you don't. So you have to think about things.
Yes, I do want to get rid of it.
What? You want to protect the courts that have protected...
No, we can do that ourselves.
Well, you can't do that unless you've got the plan in place.
We can have our own human rights.
Yes, unfortunately, Reform has not said that.
You don't need
Reform has not
I'm
said
not talking
that.
about Reform.
Well, yeah, of course you are. This is the entire... The problem is that you're trying to make out that one is more conservative than the other, and I'm going to make the point that they're not, because one is a reactionary force, and the other is based in actually knowing what it's doing. Now, I don't disagree with you. They have messed up immigration to the nth degree, and they should be on their hands and knees begging for forgiveness. But in my opinion, you beg for forgiveness by being better. You actually try and turn the page.
Never mind.
Not just, cast it to the wind.
It's my show. Shut up. Never mind reviewing whether or not we're in the ECHR. Just leave.
No.
Have the courage of your convictions. Just do something. Dare to disturb the universe. You lot are finished unless you start showing some resolve. Kemi Badenoch will not be your leader at the next election.
I think
you well know that.
No. I think
she will not.
What, who do you think
Robert Jenrick will be your
there's
leader.
no way. No, absolutely not. He is far too extreme
Kemi Badenoch,
for the actual
you got
base
Kemi Badenoch, you lose even more than you already do.
No, I don't believe that at all. I think if everything stays as it is, I think the Tories will stay the largest party. But whether they'll get a majority, I think we're far too far away for that. However, I think the biggest problem many other parties are going to face is that they have no actual plan. The reason the Conservatives lost last time wasn't because they weren't right-wing enough, because if that's true, why did they go for Keir Starmer? The reality is they weren't competent enough.
Show's nearly over, I think.
Well, it takes a long time to correct people.
It certainly does. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a political broadcast on behalf of the Cobblers Party. Next up, what are we doing next? We're going to be talking about... look, you got me off my stride now. Working class criminals. If you've got a working class accent, apparently you will be more likely to be suspected of crimes and criminal activity. So we'll have a look at that after these messages. Stay where you are.
When you speak your mind, and indeed I would argue the truth about such people as annoying, irritating, juvenile Just Stop Oil protesters and supporters, when you say what you think, and indeed what most people in this country think, as a matter of freedom of speech, on social media and elsewhere, you get fired. And that's exactly what's happened to Ross Meredith. I don't think they have any place talking about whether climate change is important or not. That is not within the police service's remit.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Before we get on to working class accents, do you think you've got a working class accent?
I don't think I see that. This is really
I
fun.
do, because you're from the north.
Oh, yeah, that's
a joke, folks.
Yeah, but no, this is quite funny actually, because most people up north think I have a really posh accent. I mean, everyone down here thinks I sound rough as anything.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny. My parents, they all sound like that where I'm from, and I don't have that accent. So everyone always used to think I was adopted, which wasn't very nice. But
listen, we'll get on to that in a minute, because I just want to spend a couple of minutes laughing, really. Because Dale Vince, that well-known green lunatic, multi-millionaire, of course, he's had this very bitter divorce battle going on against his wife, during which his wife, Kate Vince, revealed that far from being a sort of eco-warrior who lives in a very green life, that he travelled by private jet, always drank imported champagne, very unecological, and wine, and went on multiple international holidays. Do I hear the word hypocrite here? Anyway, after this very bitter divorce battle, judge has just awarded Kate Vince, let's get the right figure here, it's £45.64 million. 45.64 million, which is estimated to be half of his fortune. So his entire wealth was built during her marriage, his marriage to Kate, and frankly, she seems to have taken him to the cleaners. What a shame. Couldn't happen to a nicer lunatic.
Agreed. I know. I have no sympathy for this man, and good on her. I mean, the good judge is saying, this is just a silliness, and you're right. It really got me how bitter this became, actually. But I suppose people like Dale Vince like to keep hold of their money. All these green warriors, they sit there and he ain't
keeping hold of much of his money now, is he? That's half.
Well, maybe that makes it.
£45 million. Well done, Mrs. Vince. You couldn't lend me any cash, could you? I'm looking for a little right now. Let's talk about working class accents. A new report come out saying that people with working class accents, it's reported in The Guardian, are more likely to be suspected of committing crimes. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not. I'm saying. I think it's probably true. It's probably true. I mean,
I think it's true.
Do you think the thing about let me know what you think, folks, by the way. Do you think that's true? If you've got a working class accent, does it make life in this country a little harder? Are you less likely to get the good jobs? Are you less likely, or more likely to be suspected of being a criminal? Will the coppers look at you differently? The thing is, Pete, the thing about the British class system is it goes like this. That we are all trapped in it. We're absolutely trapped. I don't approve of it.
No.
But we're British. Being British, or English in particular, when you meet any other English person, the first thing you do, you compute, it goes through your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so if I meet someone, I go, oh, all right, mate, great to meet you, yeah, nice. I go, that's a working class person, and probably not a very good job, and so on. Didn't go to a public school, or somebody, hello, what a pleasure. You go, oh, that's an upper class person. And I'll tell you what I think. I mean, I'm not so, I like the royals. I find them very entertaining. I'm glad we've got them, and people love having the royal family. But in a way, as long as we view our society as a pyramid going up to the pinnacle, to the royal family. The royal family are the ultimate symbol of the class system.
Yes,
They're
they
at the
are.
top of the tree. As long as we fawn to them, and as long as we look up to them automatically by dint of their birth, then we're going to have a class system.
Definitely. One thing I've always found quite interesting is it's not always necessarily about money either. It's often about those kind of schools you went to, where you live in the country, compared to other countries that have kind of similar structures in society. All completely ridiculous. Because, you know, the fact is that working class people look down on middle class people just as much as middle class people look down on working class people. They call them, like, you know, hooray Henrys, and, you know, like, oh, off you go, you know, shooting,
but
and here we go.
you're absolutely right.
There is the like, they
It goes
hate
both
you as much
ways.
as
You're right,
yeah,
you're right,
you know.
absolutely right.
And it's you know, it's a famous sketch, you know, it goes down on him and it goes
Ronnie Barker,
right,
John
yeah.
Cleese, and Ronnie Corbett.
Yeah, and I think there's still some great truth in that. But I do think there is a big problem of the bigotry of low expectations, where, in other words, it's you know, certain people think that, they need us, because otherwise how will they know what to do? You know, these kind of looking down and trying to, like, they couldn't possibly do this. You know, they don't have anything. They don't have this. They need us. And, you know, most of the time, working class people do not vote the way, do not have the same politics as people in higher bits of society, apparently. And, you know, we saw this thing over Brexit, the clear class divide on an issue like that, because the system and the structure was not working for working class people, so they voted against the system. You know, if we're making money or pretty comfortable, of course you voted for Remain. You know, there's lots of different elements to this, but I do find that kind of bigotry of looking down and that kind of saviour complex to be very problematic. And the big example of it was who put me with that bigoted woman, the Gillian Duffy and Gordon Brown incident, because it was a reasonable question on immigration in her local community, and she was labelled as a bigot because she wasn't part of this metropolitan way of thinking. And I think that's
I'm not
the
sure
divide.
that. I mean, kind of, yeah. But I think, you know, that was more, that was a sort of a metropolitan politician thinking that all the masses, you know, were kind of fairly Neanderthal. That's a kind of political snobbery. What we're talking about is innate snobbery. And as I say, it's the curse of being British. You know it, everybody. You tell me, give me a call, let me know what you think. But you just can't help yourself. You don't like doing it, but you make an assessment of everyone you meet, and one of the elements of this assessment is, you know, are they from the lower orders? Are they middle class? Are they upper class? And
I think
so
the
on and so
BBC has
forth.
a role in this as well, with, you know, that kind of BBC accent. You know, that kind of, this is like the bog standard, this is how everybody should talk. And, you know, there has always been a problem of regional voices on the BBC and throughout the media, really. But I do think there is then also the problem of, you know, elevating people simply because they have a northern accent. You know, I think that you can over pander if you're not careful. But, you know, you know, we see it all the time, this kind of working class hero complex, and it is like you said, it's the curse of being British. There is a, like, I know, I've admit, I do it myself. I ask where people are from, and I'm like, oh, you're one of those. You're like that. You went to that.
But you see, the weird thing is, though, is you know, mostly people who become educated, you know, working class people who, I don't know, come from East London, Cockneys, or, you know, people from your hometown, Wigan, you know, but working class people from the regions or Cockneys or whatever, they go to Oxford or something, they're clever people, and mostly you'll find their accents change.
They
adapt. They adapt. You know, very few intellectuals or highly educated people still talk like that. Still talk like they used to when they was kids.
There always used to be a joke when I was at university that, you know, the guy from Birmingham could cure cancer, but no one would take him seriously simply because he had a Brummie accent. You know, it's that kind of innate snobbery that you're talking about. And, you know, you are right. People go to uni, and it was called the uni accent when I was there. That kind of generic kind of... Like you said, it's probably more southern than anything else. But I wonder if that's just...
Well, they call it. Was it what's the term for it? The register
cadence.
No, it's a word for basic English, but proper English, as they used to call it. But you know, when I was a kid, it was like, you know, if you talked like that, you were told by your teachers that's not proper English. And it is. it is. You know, it doesn't matter how you speak. That's proper English. Regional accents, strong Geordie accents, strong Northern accents, strong Welsh accents, West Country accents, Cockney. That's proper English.
Yeah.
That's the way people speak. And yet, weirdly, because of our class society, because of our class system, you know, there's this sort of tendency to look down on people with regional accents.
Yeah.
So, that's my microphone, folks. Right, we're going to change it. So, Abby, there, that's Abby, the assistant producer. It's her fault. Are we actually doing it?
Yeah.
I suppose you...
Yeah. You got to get it done.
Okay. Okay.
Just no, keep it on.
Okay, are we working? Are we working? This is broadcasting verite, folks, before your very eyes, proving that we're live. Is that better? Is that better? Okay, sorry about that, folks. There's some glitch we've got going on here. This happens. Actually, I should sort of say, oh, sorry about that. It all went wrong. I don't know what happened there, but something's gone wrong with me mic. But yes, it's interesting, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, but like, you know, the kind of social mobility aspect of it, that you can move upper class, but then you know you're not accepted by them, and you know you get the Mrs. Bouquet one as well.
But if you take someone like Alan Bennett, who's retained very strongly his northern accent, good for him. But then you take someone like, I don't know, Melvin Bragg, who's a Cumbrian.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
You know, very northern guy.
Very much northern.
And I think he's admitted, it's just my accent's really toned down since I lived in Hampstead, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that people move more in this country.
I think to be someone like Alan Bennett, you really have to have the courage of your convictions and say, I am not going to jettison my working class regional accent.
I think staying in the region usually helps. Most of them will scoot down to London because it's where their industry is, but Alan Bennett obviously didn't, and I think his work is 10 times better.
He's lived in Camden. He lived in Camden for about 50 years.
Oh, right.
So he did.
I thought he did. Stayed in Yorkshire.
I went round his house once. Very nice place. So the report by Cambridge University says basically people with accents from Liverpool, Newcastle, Bradford and London risked being stereotyped. And so do you think, folks, that you're stereotyped because of your regional accent? We've got a lot of calls from people all over the country, and you know, and I guess I've got one of these sort of neutral accents.
Yeah, I think you do. I've always struggled to place where you're from.
No, well, I'm a Londoner. But it's.
But I find in London that's very rare to meet a Londoner.
I'm a Londoner, but sort of North Londoner.
North London,
Hampstead type Londoner. But I think I came from West London. I think I have more of a bit of a gall blimey not a gall blimey, but more of a London accent when I was younger. But it has tailed off. Now we're going to go to break in just a little while, and we're going to talk about a couple of legal stories with barrister Andrew Ebon after the break. Martin in Yorkshire, though, stay tuned because I want to talk to you later. That next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I've got a couple of messages here. This one's for you, Pete. Hi, Kev. Pete has given me a headache the way he rabbits on slow down gibber jaws.
I have to get it all in. That's
there you go, slow down gibber jaws. He's given Sue a headache. Gave me a headache as well,
Yeah.
Sue.
And
Angie, I've got a message. She said, oh dear, Kev, you just made it onto Mike Graham's gaffes of the week. Well, A, who cares? And B, not my fault.
Yeah.
It turns out, by the way, that was a studio problem. So both my microphone and Pete's, it was an engineering problem. What could we do? I mean, it was cracking away. So we had to fix it live on air. Our thanks to Abby Balkin, the assistant producer, who fixed it all up for us. So we also got engineering to fix it. So there you go. We're home and dry now. In about half an hour, we're going to take your calls. We're going to read some of your messages. As I said before the break, we had a call from a guy called Martin in Yorkshire. He says, rape gangs. I am a retired police officer and I have a lot to say. So, Martin, if you're still listening, in about half an hour, yours will be the first call. So we'll get back to you and we'll get you on. We are joined in the studio now by a man who does not have a working class accent. Barrister and broadcaster Andrew Eborn. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm not bad, mate. You all right? Nice to hear you, as they say. It's always a joy. It's a joy to be back.
Good to have you on board. So, couple of legal stories from which I think we can benefit from your expertise. Now, this is going massive all over the world on social media, and it is indeed an intriguing saga. We're talking about the sort of smash hit real-life Hollywood drama that is this volcanic feud between the actress Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Baldoni starred in and directed a film called It Ends With Us. It's actually about domestic violence. And the co-star was the actress Blake Lively. She's married to Ryan Reynolds. Now, after this film, Blake Lively went public and sort of accused Baldoni of sexually harassing her and behaving in an unacceptable way on the set. Baldoni says it's outrageous. You know, how dare you taint my reputation like this? So they've been swapping sort of nasty words in public for some time. Well, the latest twist, Andrew, is that Baldoni is now suing Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds for $400 million. Baldoni alleges that this showbiz power couple and their publicist, someone called Leslie Sloan, tried to hijack his film and made false claims against him of sexual harassment. And earlier, before this, Blake Lively accused Baldoni of attempting to destroy her reputation. Where is this heading, do you think?
Well, you say it all ends with us. It doesn't. It all ends with lawyers. It ends with the reality.
Like everything. It ends with the lawyers.
Everything. And they always say a good reputation is worth more than silver or gold. It's all about this, but it started actually with accusations about behaviour on set.
Yeah, the Baldoni's behaviour.
Exactly. And all sorts of litigation. The figures are eye-watering because there was reports about what went on and PR firms saying that they're going to bury Blake's sort of reputation as a result of it, Blake's reputation, and they got involved and there were smear campaigns and so on and so forth. So it's all to do with defamation, and he's also gone as far as sort of suing the New York Times, who reported some of the allegations.
Yeah, now that you'll agree with me here. I mean, I know something of journalistic law. That lawsuit, that legal action by Baldoni against the New York Times, which all the New York Times did was to report what was in Blake Lively's lawsuit against Baldoni, that legal action is going nowhere. That's fair.
Well, you say that, and there's always an argument for the things. What Baldoni is arguing is that the bits that they picked were out of context and so on and so forth. No, but that's what happens. It is a nuance.
Yeah.
So if they're twisting it on that sort of basis, you're right. If you're simply reporting the facts and so on and so forth, but if you're repeating a defamatory statement, then you yourself as a publisher will be liable for the defamation. What's happening on this sort of basis? He's basically come out as a big campaigner for women's rights. He's talking about toxic masculinity and trying to get rid of all that sort of stuff. So the damage to him and his reputation is massive. He's been dropped by his agency as a result of these various accusations and so on and so forth. But the figures in the States are always huge. So to say you're suing for 400 million, you know, it's incredible. And the way that they calculate this, look, what is the damage? The basic principle in law is to put you in the position you would have been in if the defamatory statements had not been made. So basically, if he's going to argue about his career and so on and so forth. But the fact that it's all Hollywood and they've got some of the same characters as the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard cases, the PR firms behind that, the Sultans of Spin, as I call them, they're working on that sort of premise. It's all going to come out, and I predict where it's going. It's going to be pages and pages of tabloid stories for several months.
Yeah, and so Blake Lively alleged during the filming of It Ends With Us, Baldoni, as I said earlier, was not only her co-star, he also directed the film. That, for example, when she was in her trailer getting changed, you know, he would burst in with his mates, you know, with his buddies, so they could see her in a state of undress. He, of course, denies this.
Yes.
So she set this ball rolling with these kind of explosive allegations against Baldoni, and he has counterattacked in a massive way.
Yes.
Which is obviously, you know, as you say, suing the New York Times, now this $400 million lawsuit. I mean, you know, we can talk fairly freely here. We're not under American jurisdiction. Do you think perhaps he... well, I've got to be slightly careful. Could you conclude that possibly Mr. Baldoni doth protest too much?
Well, I always say that the best form of defence is offence.
Yes.
So you work on that sort of principle. It all depends on the evidence, is the honest answer in all of these situations. The reports from that sort of side, apart from bursting into her trailer while she was breastfeeding, was one of the issues. There was apparently pictures which are shown of naked people. There were scenes which took place which she hadn't authorised. So
people are watching. By the way, that goes on all the time. Well, it used to when I was there. You know, the directors would get their mates in, you know, if there were nude scenes and things like that. But I mean, one had thought, or would have thought that, you know, in our new woke era, Me Too and all that sort of activity had ended. But according to Blake Lively, it hasn't.
Well, and that's the thing. So we're looking on that sort of basis. So they talked about having an intimacy coordinator on set and so on and so forth. She sat down. The reason Ryan's involved as well is they talked about the artistic side, looking at the script and working on that sort of basis, changing some of the scenes. So this is what they're complaining about on that sort of basis. And Taylor Swift was involved as well. She was apparently shown a particular scene and said, "Oh, I prefer her version of it than the other one." So she was brought in on that sort of basis.
Well, you have to do what Taylor says. I mean, for God's sake, if she preferred that scene it is.
Yes.
But also these publicists are involved, and Blake Lively said that Baldoni used his publicists. She alleges this. We're not saying this is a fact, folks. This is what these two are accusing each other of. None of this has been proved. We've got to be careful here.
Yes.
But she says that Baldoni used his publicists, his PRs, as we call them in the business, to smear her reputation.
Yes.
He is now saying that both Blake and Ryan Reynolds used their publicist to smear him.
And there's quotes, and they say alleged quotes. So you're absolutely right to frame it in that way. We can bury anybody was one of the quotes on these sort of things. When they have these smear campaigns, and actors nowadays they're brands, and so the reputation, they're worth millions. So the knock-on effect when it's damaged, and obviously with one of the Hollywood's power couples with Ryan Reynolds as well thrown into the mix, they're looking at that sort of basis, and that's why it's so important for these big studios. But this is why he's come out fighting. And all of the stuff will come out in evidence. We've seen some of the text, alleged texts and so on and so forth, which have been printed in the newspaper. Baldoni's turning around and saying that's not all of it, it's not in context. So we're going to see the rest of it. And it's going to be ugly.
It's like I say, it's better than any movie.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
Really is. It really is. Now, let's talk again carefully a little bit about Blake Lively.
Yes.
Now, a friend of a friend
Yes.
over there in LA, in poor, fire-ravaged LA.
Yes, awful.
She's a Scandinavian journalist, and for the what they call the opening of this film, they call them junkets.
Yes.
So I've been to many. Basically, the studios organise these junkets. So basically, loads of journalists will turn up, and the stars turn up usually in a hotel somewhere, and through the day they'll conduct all these interviews. Sometimes the poor stars have to do 30 interviews in a day, but it's a good way of getting global publicity for the movie in one day flat. Now, at one of these junkets, this Scandinavian girl, there were rumours around, or I think it might have just been announced, that Blake Lively was with child. She was pregnant, and so this Scandinavian girl, I think it was for a TV interview, quick TV interview, she said, oh, well, you know, congratulations on your baby bump. And Blake Lively went off on one.
Yes,
you know,
sort
of basically, you know, felt that this was, you know, an intrusion on her privacy, and we're here to talk about the film, not whether or not I'm pregnant and all that. So that Scandinavian, the journalist, a female, she said, you know, she went public and just said, you know, I was bullied here, you know, and they humiliated me, and I just asked a perfectly, you know, normal, civil question. So I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, Blake Lively. Let's put this. She's one of those people who doesn't suffer fools gladly. Would that be a diplomatic way of putting it?
And it is interesting. I read that report and read all sorts of other reports as well on that sort of basis. And some of the allegations about what was said on set was about her weight and whether she was carrying too much weight and so on and so forth. So clearly very sensitive about it. There are always different ways that you can spin these stories. And as you know, and you're working on that sort of basis, in the same way as Amber Heard was vilified in the press and so on and so forth. And that's why I say some of the PR people, the sultans of spin, behind the scenes, they will twist and turn and so on and so forth. And some of the emails, alleged text, which went between the people, are quite horrendous about burying and basically vilifying people in this sort of situation. It will come out in the wash. It will come out with lots of lawyers. I always say it's the lawyers who benefit most in these actions. And that's what's going to happen. But it's the evidence. That's the key thing to do.
Have you ever worked in America, but legally?
I work. My wife's American, so I've worked around the world. So a lot of what I do, but I mainly specialise in intellectual property. So that's why I sell rights around the world on that sort of basis. But yes, it's interesting. The lawyers over there are a slightly different breed to the lawyers over here.
Yeah, mostly they tend to be much wealthier.
Well, you look at the figures, and it's exactly 400 million. And I always talk about litigation. There's that classic cartoon, Jay Bright, from the 18th century, which depicts litigation as a cow with the word litigation on it, and you get the plaintiff pulling the horns, the defendant ppulling the tail, and the lawyers milking it, because they're the ones who make all the money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it seems to me, I don't know, you know, the only winners here will be the lawyers.
It's also the reputational damage, because what comes out, the dirt on all sides. You shine a spotlight on people's lives. That's what they're now going to be doing. They're going to be looking at all these old emails, digging up, as you say, interviews with Swedish journalists who said this and so on and so forth. And if you remember the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, which was wall-to-wall television, everybody was trying to speak because they loved all the dirt. And that's what's going to happen.
Well, you know, I've got a lot of experience having, you know, been a journalist in LA for the best part of 10 years and gone to a lot of these junkets, interviewed a lot of stars. And these publicists, you know, they're the scourge of journalism there. So basically you'll be going into some star, some actor or actress who's just filed for some sensational divorce, and as you go into the room with the actor or the actress sitting there, the publicist will say, "You're not allowed to ask about the divorce." And you go, "Well, it's the only question in town." And I'll tell you, Blake Lively's next movie, all the journalists will be banned from asking her about Baldoni, Justin Baldoni, and same for him. You won't be able to ask him about about Blake Lively, probably for the rest of their lives.
Well, I think that's probably the reality. But I reckon there's a movie just in the same way there was behind the scenes.
Do you know what? They probably will make a movie of this. Look, we're going to go to break now, and we're going to pick Mr. Eborn's legal brain again. We're going to talk about the BBC's favourite killer drill rapper, Jake Farry. He's the guy that the BBC played a record of on their channel, what's it called, BBC One Extra. Yeah. And the song was all about killing someone, and you know what they say? They say, write about what you know. Well, Jake Farry knows about killing people because he did kill someone. He went to jail. We'll discuss what's happened to Jake in the... subsequent in the last few days. It's quite a lot after these messages. Stay exactly where you are.
Up here is the fact that we know there are people in our institutions, in our establishment, who turned a blind eye, neglected their responsibilities and their duties to protect people, and most importantly, once again are now looking after themselves, walking away with big, hefty, gold-plated public sector pensions, rather than face the justice that they deserve, or sorry, that they need to face, so the victims get the justice that they deserve. I'm absolutely appalled, and yet again, it's no shock to me that the establishment is doing everything it can.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with, of course, Pete Barnes. What was it you're called? A jabbering...
Yeah. It doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Jibberjaws.
It doesn't mean I'm wrong.
I'm still with Jibberjaws, Pete Barnes. He does go on, doesn't he?
Yeah, because I'm right, that's why.
Yeah, of course you are. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Tory's going to win the next...
Yeah. Reform going to win the next election. Tell me
That's right, dear. That's right. Right, let's get back to the business that we're supposed to be dealing with. And we're still with Andrew Eborn, barrister. Have you ever lost a case, by the way?
It's funny you should mention that, Kevin. I've never lost a case.
He's never lost a case. He's never lost a case, but he doesn't like to talk about it.
I don't like to talk about it.
Even I know that.
Well, of course, he shouts it from the rooftops 24/7.
But in a posh voice.
You only win your cases because you've got a posh voice.
I think that's right. It's very good.
Well, there's not many working class barristers, are there?
There's a few, actually.
Yeah. I wouldn't hire one. Keir Starmer, he's the son of a toolmaker. He doesn't like talking about that either.
Very true.
So it took me some research to find out his father was a toolmaker, I'll tell you. Now, let's talk. This is an interesting legal conundrum, if you like. So there's this guy called Jake Fari. Back in 2008, he got a life sentence. For killing a poor little kid, 16-year-old, well, I say little, he was a massive kid, he was called a gentle giant, 16-year-old Jimmy Misen. Basically, Jake Fari picked a fight on him in a bakery in South London. It all got out of hand, and this guy, Fari, threw a hot Pyrex dish full of sausages at him, it hit him in the neck and severed his artery. He died. He got life imprisonment for that, quite rightly, if you ask me. Anyway, as in the nature of these things, his life sentence turned out to be about 15 years, you know. So he went in 2008, came out in June 2023, on licence, of course. Now, since then, he fancies himself as a drill rapper. The BBC played his song, Dirty Game, and DJ Theo Johnson on BBC One Extra gushed, he really stands out. Well, the lyrics were all about, like, watching a man's soul, and I gashed him and there he went. And it was all a graphic description of Fari murdering Jimmy Misen. That was what this song was about, so the BBC should never have played it. They had the temerity to say, oh, well, you know, we have very strict editorial guidelines and policies before we let any content out. What they should have done is said, we made a mistake here, sorry, because that's what they did. But that's the BBC for you. So the BBC played this record. His mother, Margaret Misen, was very upset about that, as you might imagine. Anyway, the point is that since being released, Mr. Fari, piece of scum that he is, part of his licences was A, he wasn't allowed into the London Borough of Greenwich, and B, he must not talk about his crime. He must not boast about it. So, A, his song Dirty Game completely glorifies and boasts about his crime, his horrible murder of poor Jimmy. And B, he made a video for it in the London Borough of Greenwich. So we're not talking super criminal, are we here? He's thick as a brick, clearly. Anyway, so Jimmy's mum said, well, look, I've just looked at this video. This was only yesterday. And the authorities looked at that and said, well, that breaks the terms. Oh, have you seen this song? That breaks the terms. Mr. Fari is now back in jail. Yes. He's been recalled to prison, so serves him right for being such an idiot. Now, what I would like to say to you, or ask you, Andrew, is this. A lot of people said, look, this guy, awful, awful murder. You know, life sentence, great. Why was the life sentence only 15 years? And now that he's been recalled, now that he rode roughshod over the terms of his very generous, lenient release, can he now do life?
So it's very simple, and what happens is that I always say that trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback, and trust in the judiciary and the legal system was at an all-time low, which is one of the reasons they introduced the televisation of the sentencing. And so judges could explain.
By the way, don't they go on when they're filmed?
But they're
I've seen them doing these sentences. You have too in real life. Trust me, it's never as long as when they're on telly.
And what they're trying to do, though, is to explain to the system, and it's actually a formula. The Sentencing Council says that this is what you're trying to do, here's what you do for these cases, and murder is always life.
Yeah.
But what you do is you get what's called aggravating circumstances,
Yeah.
which means that you have a minimum period, which might be a higher period if it's aggravating. Mitigating circumstances means it's lower. In this particular case, they said you've got 14 years. You have to serve your 14 years. But you then get let out, as you rightly say, on what's called licence. Now, what licence means, you're still serving your life sentence, but you're in the community and supposed to be rehabilitating and so on and so forth. If you breach the terms of those licence, you get recalled back to prison. So you're absolutely right on that sort of basis. What happened here in those two examples, he went to the borough, he recorded that, he clearly wasn't supposed to do that, and the abhorrent lyrics that we heard, and you mentioned some of them, seeing blood spilled, same floor he was left on, watched him melt like Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, sorry, watch him melt like Ben and Jerry.
Sickening lyrics.
Yeah, and then see the soul come out of him.
Absolutely
He was
sickening.
glorifying his horrible murder of that
Absolutely
poor kid.
sickening.
So he boasted about it.
And my heart goes out to the mother and so on and so on, and the family and friends who are just reminded of this. It's absolutely appalling. But it beggars another question, because rap songs in and of itself, he's not the first rap person who's got criminal convictions. There's a number of rappers who have this. And if you look at the lyrics about women, about murders, about drugs and so on and so forth, there's a lot of those in these songs. And what the BBC would say is they're turning around, they said they didn't play that song, but they didn't know about his convictions when he was called 10, and they played it. They've now taken them off the playlist, so they won't do that again. And they also say that it's absolutely appalling. But it does raise that
should
wider
apologise,
question. Well, they should turn around and say, it's simple to say sorry, and say, look, we're sorry for the offence.
We made a mistake, is what they should say. I mean, you know, the drill rap, I mean, it's got some pretty... they should have looked at the lyrics, but, you know, we all know what drill rap is about. But they didn't, and they didn't know about Jake Farry's background, so to a certain extent, those are mitigating circumstances. But to start say, their response was, Pete, see what you think about this, their response was, we have very strict guidelines and editorial policies before we put any content out. Well, you didn't this time, did you?
No, you didn't. And the boilerplate excuses just don't work here, because for me, actually, what I think this is the BBC like to elevate these kind of subcultures and these underground things, and to kind of speculate, kind of make them more significant and really shine a light on them. And I think that's what this was. You know, this drill culture is its own kind of subgenre, and it is people who don't really understand it trying to understand it and just making a complete mess of it. I think he's right that you should just apologise. I don't, but it should just be automatic for them to apologise.
But I think it's wider than that, though. I think it's wider than that, because if you look at the lyrics for a lot of these songs, they're all about the same thing.
Yeah.
And a number of
Shanking
rappers,
people.
but they are, and a lot of rappers have got criminal convictions.
Yeah.
You look at that sort of stuff. So the question has to be, in this society, is it right? So we've got to balance freedom of speech with incitement and causing offence and so on and so forth. That's the bigger question which we need to look at.
I think you're right. Sorry.
But I want to ask this, though. You know, what a lot of people are annoyed about is, you know, we hear, oh, you got life. Like you killed a kid, your life imprisonment. You know, some of them are back on the streets in 12 years, sometimes less. This guy, back on the streets in just under 15 years. He's still only 35 years old, whole life ahead of him and all that. So people get very angry about that.
And
it's deceptive. You know, it's stopped now, but for a long, long time, every sentence... so you go, tough on crime. This man is getting 20 years. You are sentenced to 20 years. What that meant was he was sentenced to 10 years. Yeah. All sentences were automatically halved, and yet for some reason the legal system wanted to tell, look at us, 20 years. No, 10 years. So there's this deception. He's getting life. No, he's on the streets 8 years later. This guy on the streets just under 15 years later. So what I'm asking you, Andrew, given that he has ridden roughshod over his very lenient early release, could he do life now, please?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and this is about the optics on this sort of side. We need to restore trust in the justice system. And as I said, but the punishments, they always work on this basis. Some of it's to punish for the crime. It's supposed to act as a deterrent for other people, but also they're looking at rehabilitation of the offender. And this particular person was 19 when they murdered the terrible murder in Lee, as you mentioned. The question is, in normal situations, they want to try and see, can this person be rehabilitated? Which is why, that's why they sue it. And they then turn around and say, okay, after a certain period of time, we'll try to reintroduce you to society, but you're on licence, so if you do anything again, you're back in. And I think that's right. What we need is the public need to understand why this happens. You need to restore the trust and make sure that appropriate sentences are carried out.
Yeah, well, this guy, while he was still inside, there were allegations that he tried to sexually assault a nurse while he wasn't very well in the hospital, apparently. So, you know, there are other questions about why the hell they decided to let him out at all in the first place. So this is very, very murky. But Andrew, thank you very much. A very interesting half an hour on two legal cases, intriguing legal cases on both sides of the Atlantic. So thank you very much to the non-working class barrister and broadcaster, Andrew Eborn. I was just going to make a couple of messages here. This is about me. So in about half, we're going to take your calls next, by the way. 03444991000. Now, tomorrow, well, actually, in half an hour, you can watch my show, What Just Happened, my TV show. You can watch it if you're watching me now, or if you want to listen to it just on audio, on the radio, it's very radio friendly. So that's What Just Happened in about 30 minutes, 9 o'clock. I'm on Grumpy Old Men. Funnily enough, I don't know why. Why do they want me on Grumpy Old Men? That's 12:30 tomorrow, 12:30 until 1 p.m. Saturday. Clash of the Titans. I'm on that as well. Honestly, you know, you lucky people, you get so much of me. Clash of the Titans, 5:30 until 6 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday. And then What Just Happened hits YouTube at 9:30 tomorrow, and then will be available. So all these programmes after tomorrow will be available on YouTube for you to watch anytime. So What Just Happened in half an hour, 9 p.m. and then tomorrow at 9:30 p.m. if you want to watch it. It's kind of live, and then it goes general. So play your clip in a minute. So there you go. There's your weekend sorted out. You can watch me all weekend. It's going to be a humdinger of a Saturday for you. Right, let's go to a break. Thank you very much to Andrew, and Pete will stay with me while we take a few calls. So back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I told you that my show, What Just Happened, that'll be on in about 25 minutes. Here's a clip.
It is not far right to ask for an inquiry. It is far right to put some of the toxic, poisonous crap that has been posted under Elon Musk's
Good
stuff.
for him. He has reignited a scandal
you know
that we
what?
tried to
you know
bury.
who the people who are guilty
Thank
here?
God for
the people
Elon.
who are guilty here are men. It's not Pakistani men or Muslim men, just like it's not... Wait there, just like it's not Catholic, just like it's in
They're
the
not
Catholic...
Catholics.
In the
They're
Catholic,
Muslims.
In the Catholic...
They're Muslims.
In the Catholic priest... In the Catholic church...
Nearly all of them.
Just let me finish.
No.
In the Catholic church scandals, it is men who are doing this, and we need to stop making it about divisiveness and need to attack the people who are doing it.
Hang on, mate. OK. I mean, look, my life, that's Simon London. I'm supposed to be the host. I've got Simon London, I've got Pete Barnes, I'll never get a word in edgeways. What is the point, honestly? I've got to raise my game, be a bit more authoritative, don't you think? Right, a couple of messages then to the phones. Here we go. It's about accents. Got a couple of good ones here. This is from... Tim in Coventry. I always knew who the working class kids were at school because they were naturally aggressive. They had an arcane toilet humour and a penchant for punching you in the face for pronouncing grass. Oh, grass.
Yeah, grass.
That's me. Do you say bath or bath? I don't say bath. Claire says it's true. We get looked down on. I have a really broad Glasgow accent and people always comment, but I love it. And here's one from David. I was raised to speak well, but working in factories and supermarkets I was always damned for being posh. Why don't you get a proper job, they would say. That was always the accusation. There are none more working class conscious people than blue collar workers. I think they're right. I mean, Pete mentioned that. It cuts both ways. And one last one from Peter Bromley. This is for you, Pete. Yeah. I've voted Conservative all my life, including 2019 at the general election when reform stood aside in all of the constituencies. I'm 55 and always vote. I can't see how I can vote Conservative again. The trust is gone. Badenoch seems pleasant enough, but it doesn't matter who their leader is. Proper Conservative MPs should move to reform. The Conservatives are finished. Well, Peter, I think you and I are on the same page. You're not allowed to talk. We need to go to the calls. And let's go straight away to Sarah in Somerset. Hello, Sarah. You want to talk? Well, what would you like to say?
I'd like to say, Kevin, that this is quite sobering, but I listened to this amazing man called Raja Maya this morning on a podcast called Heretics. And
I know that podcast, yeah.
He's brilliant. And this man has worked very high up with government in the anti-terrorist department. And basically, gangsters have infiltrated the Labour Party, or they're certainly in partnership.
Well, when you say gangsters, what kind of gangsters? You mean like criminal gangsters, or
like convicted heroin dealers? And there are certainly gangsters are involved with the grooming scandals and there's drugs cartel. I mean, this is really going on a large, grand scale, and even it's interconnected with the votes because they threaten people who are not registered on the voting system. They literally go around because they can sort of look at the registration, the register, and literally, are you registered to vote? Are you? And literally, these are all interconnected. And
I think the problem. I mean, I don't know about actual full-time gangsters and criminals infiltrating the Labour Party, but what has the people who have infiltrated and indeed saturated the Labour Party are metropolitan elites, from where I live in North London and places like that. Middle-class white people. And so, if you like, the scourge of the Labour Party is that, all of us in North London, we're full of middle-class angst and guilt. And therefore, it was that feeling that predominated during the rape scandal scandals, and a lot of Labour politicians did not want to point the finger at Pakistani rape gangs because they feared that that would kind of infringe their middle-class elite, kind of metropolitanism, and they would be accused of racism and Islamophobia. So it's this kind of, the terror of not being seen as kind and, multicultural.
Yeah, just a minute.
Maya is a Muslim, and he's horrified by what he has discovered and what is still happening.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Pete Barnes wants to get in, but just before he does, I had a call from a guy called Mohammed the other day, lives in Reading. I've talked to him before, actually. He left Islam in disgust, and he said that he grew up among he's of Pakistani origin. He grew up among Pakistani male Muslims who taught him to look down on white women. Their culture was to view white women as, scum of the earth. I'm certainly not accusing all Muslims of that, but I am accusing every person who was in one of these vile rape gangs. That's the way they looked at white girls.
Absolutely, and I think that the way they see it is they can exert power over people that they see are less than them, and that's why we've got this horrific thing going on now, and it's been going on for decades, and people as well need to get off and vote because these sort of like mobsters are mobilised to get the vote, to get the Labour vote. And I think the Labour politicians realise that paying for power is actually going to be their downfall because the sectarianism, the sectarian division that we have now is going to obviously get worse because we've got people growing up from Muslim backgrounds.
What's going to get worse, Sarah, is this. These same people we're talking about, the Keir Starmers of this world, these middle-class hang-ringers, still go around, the BBC especially, The Guardian, they still go around saying multiculturalism and diversity is the triumph of this country. It's not. It's a massive problem. It's not working. Sarah, I've got to move on, but excellent call. Please call me again. Mainly I have to move on because we've got some breaking news here, Pete. A group of 8 men who were part of a West Yorkshire grooming gang in the late 1990s have been jailed. 3 of the men, Ibra Hussain, 47, and brothers Imtiaz Ahmed, 62, and Fayez Ahmed, 45, who are all from Keighley, were sentenced for rape at Bradford Crown Court on Friday. That's Bradford, City of Culture, where they're currently celebrating multiculturalism. The BBC had a programme on about that earlier. Can you believe it? The court heard that the offenders had targeted 2 children. Hussein and Imtiaz and Fayez Ahmed were all sentenced for raping one of the girls. God, listen to this, who was aged between 13 and 14 when the offences took place. They're paedophiles. They're not only rapists, they're paedophiles. It's just disgusting. That court case happens in Bradford, City of Culture. I mean, they're still making excuses, aren't they? They're still saying multiculturalism is a triumph. Diversity is so special, it's working out. It's not.
No, it's not. And it's like I said before, it's about them trying to justify their actions or inaction for most of it. But the one thing I did want to pick up is it's not just the kind of metropolitan types in the Labour Party. It's those who represent those other minorities aren't standing up and saying, do you know what, there's a problem in my culture. There is a problem here. And because they're too scared to say, do you know, of criticising their own. Just look how people like Dawn Butler attacked Kemi Badenoch because she became a Conservative. It is that you step out of the kind of the club and you are out and you are they will go for you in a nasty way.
Absolutely.
And that is a huge, huge problem in the Labour Party.
Yeah, the prosecuting lawyer, Catherine Duffy, described the poor girl victim, the victim of paedophile rape, as extremely vulnerable and isolated at the time she was targeted. That fits in with the general pattern, by the way. In a victim impact statement, the woman, she's now a woman, little girl when it happened to her, who is now in her 40s, said, and this breaks your heart, if I had been listened to sooner rather than later, maybe, just maybe, my life could have been different. And what she's talking about is all the people who didn't listen to her. The police, the social workers, the teachers, the local politicians, absolutely betrayed. They absolutely let these poor girls down, thousands of them. What a disgrace, what a disgrace. I suppose the good news is at least 3 more of these monsters have gone to jail. I mean, quite a few of them been jailed, quite a few of them are already out. But let me tell you, there's lots who didn't go to jail. By the way, quite a few of them who were Pakistani citizens were jailed. Maybe some of the, none of them did very long, 3, 4, 5 years. Ridiculous. For paedophile rape, should get life, throw the key away as far as I'm concerned. They came out, should have been deported. They've all successfully appealed and managed to stay. We've hardly deported any of these people. Many of these grooming gang animals are walking the streets of towns like Rochdale and Rotherham among their victims. Something has gone badly wrong in this country. It really has. 0344 499 1000. Give me a call. Let me know what you think. We'll go to break now. Back in a moment. Stay where you are.
Well, the key thing here is these cities are linked. A lot of the grooming and the gangs that go on, they're not just isolated in one city, they cross borders. We hear about the drugs crossing borders, these poor girls which are being trafficked across local authority boundaries. So it's poor practice just to say the local authority should look at this, or we should have locally led inquiries. It's a national problem. These girls are transported and boys are transported across boundaries. You can't just leave it down to local councils to lead on this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just 10 minutes before you get the wonderful opportunity to watch my show, What Just Happened? That starts just after the 9 o'clock news and takes you through to 10 p.m, but it'll be available. You can watch it or you can listen to it. Either way, it'll work. And tomorrow morning, as of about 9:30, it'll be available on YouTube, and you can watch it whenever you want. So go for it. That's what I say. Let's go back to the calls. Let's talk to Andy in Hull. Hello, Andy.
Hey, Kev, how are we doing?
I'm all right, mate. Two-tier justice. In what way? What would you like to say?
Well, you've been on about this drill rapper and his conviction for actual murder. I got a news alert on my phone today from the BBC. Calling this, they describe him as a white supremacist. He stabbed an asylum seeker. Now, I don't condone that, obviously, but he stabbed him in the chest. He's been handed down a sentence of 22 years and 8 months for attempted murder. Where's the justice in that? I mean, everybody.
He stabbed a migrant in the chest.
He stabbed a migrant in the chest.
I mean, Andy, I don't know this case. I guess it depends on the circumstances. It seems like a heavy sentence, but I can't really discuss it intelligently because I don't know the details. But if you're going to go and stab someone in the chest, I don't necessarily think 22 years is that strong a sentence. Why not? I think we need more sentences like this in order to deter people from stabbing people in the chest, wouldn't you say?
Exactly, but what I'm saying is, the point I'm trying to make is that people don't get 22 years and 8 months for murder.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. Well, that is a very good point, because we're talking about this Jake Fari guy. I mean, he got life. That's the problem here. We got life. Oh, well, that's a serious sentence. Well, life, I mean, literally sometimes is 8 years.
Yeah, so the one thing I will say is I wanted to bring it up with Andrew, actually. But Okay, but it is actually that the people who set these kind of guidelines come from the same kind of political culture, the same kind of national culture as, these kind of like soft-touch judges. Yeah. So I think the people who are setting the guidelines are the soft touch. So they're kind of like it's a never-ending circle. We need to change the guidelines and change the people setting the guidelines. It can't really be done by the people who think that we should all, hold hands and sing "Kumbaya." That's the problem.
Absolutely. And Andy, I think we have a problem. We're kind of moving on from your point, but I think we've got a problem with our parole boards. Which frankly are obviously full of kind of quinoa-eating Guardian readers, and they can't wait to let people out. They let this drill rapper out after 15 years, and he went straight out and defied all the terms of his licence and is now back inside. They're always letting the wrong people out. They let Gary Glitter out after 8 years of a 16-year sentence. He was immediately found trawling through the dark web looking at pictures of little girls again. Had to go back to jail. There's a guy called Colin Pitchfork a couple of years ago. He was let out after a life sentence dating back to the 1980s, when he killed and raped two 15-year-old schoolgirls. Well, he finally got out 3 years ago. The parole board said, "Oh, let him out." About 2 weeks later, he's found hanging out around outside a girls' school. He had to go back. So they constantly let the wrong people out. There's a problem there, wouldn't you say?
This obviously was it was sentenced today at Woolwich Crown Court. Mr. Justice Dove said it was obviously undoubtedly a terrorist attack. But the terrorist attacks, the Muslim terrorists don't get the sentences that this guy's got. And I'm not sympathising with this guy. I think he should have 20 years in jail. In the chest. But then so should anybody else. And
you suspect that you suspect if it wasn't a crime on a migrant, it might be a shorter sentence. I think there's something in what you say. There is two-tier justice. There's all sorts of tiers. There's no consistency in our British justice system. Andy, really good call. Thank you very much. Call me again, but I've got to move on. Andy in Hull, this is the call I've been waiting for, looking forward to. It's Chris in Cambridgeshire. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Now, I got a note here. You said Pete Barnes makes you think twice about being a Tory. Explain, please, Chris.
Well, I will do, but before I do, I'll just say 2 words. Enoch Bell.
Right.
No more than that. Now, anyway, your gentleman sitting there in his white polo.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Pete Barnes, yeah.
Listening to him, I mean, I'm 76.
Yeah.
I've been a Conservative ever since I knew about what to do with a vote.
Yeah.
But listening to him now, I think he's about as out of touch as somebody going to the North Pole for a suntan.
Yeah. I'm not sure. You see, Chris, there we are. I'm not sure, Pete, you're carrying traditional Tory supporters with you when you say...
I don't think that...
Chris, let me ask you, Chris. We'll better bring Pete in just a second. What do you think about the fact that the Tory party is still making people take diversity tests?
Ridiculous.
Pete thinks it's a good idea.
No, I don't. That's not what I said.
You think you should still have... Chris, don't you think the Tory party shouldn't have anything to do with diversity tests?
Absolutely.
You do that, you're never winning a single vote in this country because you have to learn to talk to people. Unfortunately, you can't demand voters come to you.
Chris,
you go to voters.
Chris,
it is basic politics.
So Pete thinks, Chris, that the Tories will never win a single vote unless they have diversity tests.
No, that's not
unless
what
they
I'm
worship
saying.
at the...
That is not what I'm saying.
I say,
there
Chris,
is a way to do diversity about how to communicate. Yeah. What you do is about you engage with a culture. You engage with a way to talk to people so that they can come to you. That is the point.
What a load of crap.
If you just sit there and say, I'm right and you're wrong, that is never going to convince anybody to vote for you. It is absolutely...
Let Chris speak. Go on, Chris.
Can I just say something? He's speaking as if he is the only one who knows anything. And as if he's got to educate the world. Let's put it simply. What he needs to do is come up with some ideas that attract voters, not tell them what they should be thinking.
Look, diversity is not a vote winner for the Tories. It's a vote loser. It's a massive vote loser. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. And thank you very much for backing me up. Both of us have proved that Pete Barnes is catastrophically wrong here. Thank you very much for the call, Chris. Call me again. Very, very quickly, let's talk to Barry in Norwich. Now, Barry, I've got a note here, and I couldn't agree with you more. Smashing the people smuggling gangs will not work. Explain.
Well, they won't work, will it? While they're coming into this country and they're getting free legal aid, 4 meals a day, 45 quid a week, free dental care,
free doctors, free lawyers, free hotels, free food. It's a good deal, I'll tell you.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking about. I've got Italian heritage. My dad was Italian. I'm thinking about taking myself across on a boat myself and coming back across the channel.
Yeah, exactly. You get a nice life. I'll tell you, Barry. If you're a regular listener, I say this all the time, but it's true. This is why you'll agree with this, Pete. I think this is why smashing the gangs won't work. It's a supply and demand. If you want to solve the migrant crisis somehow or other, you have to work out how to stop the migrants coming here. You have to deter them, and until you stop the migrants, there will always be people smuggling gangs. If you arrested every single one of them right now, there were none left. There'll be a whole load more